full-time law firm, Kanika Bhardwaj Law Firm, and having her office in South Delhi with a practice of more than 6 years. She has graduated her law from Lloyd Law College and masters from MIT. She has an expert level of experience in all type of matters, family matters, civil, criminal, all the matters including 138, real estate, debt recovery, etc. Presently, she works with the entire courts of Delhi and Bombay. She works into High Court of Delhi, High Court of Bombay, and the Apex Court, the Supreme Court of India. She is also in the panel of Yamuna Expressway Industrial Development Authority in Noida. She is a young, dynamic lawyer, and we welcome you, Ms. Kanika, on this board to throw light on the topic in this webinar today, which is a law of divorce procedures in India. Thank you so much.
First of all,
yeah, so from here onwards, over to you, Kanika. You can start.
all right, so let's start with the session. So first of all, I would like to thank Nitesh Mehra sir and their associates for inviting me here for this webinar and giving me such a nice introduction. So before starting the session, I just want to mention that since divorce is considered to be a taboo in our society, it is considered as a failure. But I believe that divorce does not mean a failure. It is in fact a step towards self-realization and growth. So continuing with the topic, today's session is all about divorce procedures in India, and we will be discussing about topics on the basis of ground realities in here. I will be talking about and taking up questions also in case anybody wishes to ask any questions or ask anything, can simply ask me and I'll try my level best to answer them all. So let's start with the session. So, well, there are total 4 ways of separation by the spouse under our laws. The first one is mutual divorce. Second is contested divorce. Third is annulment of marriage. And fourth is judicial separation. So we will discuss about these topics step by step and also the differences and the procedure. First of all, I'll start with our first topic of the session, which is mutual divorce. As we can see on the screen that I have shared with you guys, that mutual divorce can be filed under Section 13B of Hindu Marriage Act 1955 only if both the parties are Hindus. The second point is that
Kanika,
it
we
can be
cannot
filed.
hear you. Kanika, we cannot hear you.
Am I audible now? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Now you're audible.
To Kanika to put the mic near your mouth only.
Now I think I'm audible. Hello?
Clearly audible.
Okay. Okay, so I'll start with the first topic of our session, which is mutual divorce. So as you can see on the screen that I have shared with you, mutual divorce can be filed under Section 13B of Hindu Marriage Act 1955 only if both the parties are Hindu. It can also be filed under Section 28 of Special Marriage Act 1954 only in the case where one of the party is non-Hindu. Or it can also be filed under Section 10A of Divorce Act 1869 if one of the party is non-Hindu. So these were the law provisions of mutual divorce under section which we can file mutual divorce. Coming up to the next point now, we should know that what exactly mutual divorce is. So a mutual divorce is basically a simplest form of divorce. The procedure of divorce with mutual consent in India is less expensive and less traumatic as compared to the contested one. It also removes unnecessary disputes, thereby saving plenty of time as well as money for both the spouses. So as you can see on the PPT itself, that divorce by mutual consent is when both the parties agree for a peaceful separation, where both husband and wife agree that they cannot live together and give their consent to end their marriage. then they would jointly of Hindu Marriage Act to end their marriage, and they have no objection in ending their marital tie. So this was the mutual divorce. This provision of mutual divorce has been provided wherein certain conditions must be satisfied by the parties to get a mutual divorce. There are certain conditions. When you satisfy those conditions, then only the parties can approach the honorable court, and then only their petition will be allowed. Because see, there are technical grounds also. So now we'll be talking about the main ingredients of mutual divorce. These are the main ingredients. The first condition is that consent of both the parties. Without the consent of both husband and wife, one cannot file mutual divorce petition. Or if they even file it, the same will be dismissed on the technical grounds. Um, so first consent is consent of both the parties. Both husband and wife should agree to ending their marriage. So consent doesn't mean consent only in the matter of ending their marriage. It is much broader than that. Consent must be given on mutually agreed terms and conditions. For example, who will keep the custody of the child, the amount of maintenance, the amount of interim, if any, the share in property, etc. So, consent doesn't mean only ending their marriage, it means consent on all the terms and conditions also. So, generally, in mutual divorce, both the parties discusses and agrees on a certain terms and conditions, and after that they reduce those terms and conditions in writing in form of an agreement, which can be called as memorandum of understanding, or it can also be called as settlement agreement or compromise deed. So the agreement is notarized and is produced before the court at the time of hearing, which proves the consent of both the parties. And also, it is always safer to reduce all your conditions into writing for the future references and better clarity. So this was the first condition, which was consent of both the parties. Now, coming up on the second condition is that both husband and wife should be living separately from a minimum 1 year. It is a very technical point. Before showing minimum 1 year of separation, parties cannot file for mutual divorce. It is mandatory to mention the date of separation in petition. Therefore, 1 year of separation is mandatory. 1 year will be counted from the date of marriage. So, sorry, 1 year will not be counted from the date of marriage. 1 year will be counted from the date when both the parties have shifted to another place living separately. So this is how 1 year will be calculated. Now, coming up to the third condition, that both husband and wife have not been able to live together as husband and wife due to whatsoever reason. A reason may be differences in attitude or frequent fights or anything. So it is mentioned in the petition that they both have tried every possible way to live together but have failed, and thus they are filing for the mutual divorce. So these are the three main ingredients, and parties have to satisfy them, else they do not fit in the process of mutual divorce. So this was the entire brief of what mutual divorce is and what are the ingredients of filing mutual divorce. Now we'll come up to the topic, what is the procedure of filing the mutual divorce? So as you can see on your screens that uh, basically there are two motions in filing of mutual divorce, which is the first motion and the second motion. So the process of both the motions are same, but parties will get the decree of divorce after second motion only. First motion is filed in the court with the help of your counsel in the form of a petition along with all the mandatory required documents. After filing a date of After filing of the first motion, you will get a date of hearing, um, which is provided by the court itself to the parties, on which both the parties will have to appear in barring their original documents. Whatever original documents are made as an annexure along with the first motion petition. All those documents should be carried in original form on the first date of hearing before the Honorable Court. So itself on the first date of hearing, joint statement of both the parties is recorded. The court asks specifically to both the parties, to the husband and to the wife also, that whether they are sure that they want to be separated or not. So both the parties must agree in the court, in the open court, that they wish to end their marriage. Um, there comes a situation that in case one of the party, either husband or wife, withdraws their consent to end the marriage, then the case will be dismissed itself. So it is mandatory that both husband and wife give their separation, mutual separation statement before the open court, and they should agree to that. In case one of the party withdraws, because there arrives a situation where at the time where all the papers are signed, everything has been done, but at the time of the court, on the date of hearing in front of the judge asks that whether you want to get separated or not. So there comes a situation when one party says that maybe they are not sure or they want more time. So in that particular case, if that happens, the mutual divorce petition will be dismissed on technical ground itself. So after the joint statement have been recorded, the first motion is set to be completed. Court passes an order of first motion, and the parties can obtain their original documents, original paper from the court with the help of the counsel. So previously, what used to happen after the first motion is that parties could not file second motion before 6 months. These 6 months were given to the parties in order to reconcile their differences. Uh, so this 6 months was called as separation period previously, but now after a Supreme Court judgment, the time period of 6 months can be waived off. So now when we say that the period of 6 months can be waived off, it means that it is not mandatory to file a second motion after 6 months, or only we can file the second motion before 6 months also. But it can be done only by filing an application before the court under section 151 of CPC for waiving of 6 months period. It is mandatory to mention a valid reason in the application, or else your application will be dismissed. And it is discretion of the court whether they will allow the said application or not. But as per my experience, I can tell you that most of the application nowadays are being allowed only. Unless there is a very heavy doubt on the application, on the ground that you have taken in the application, most of the 151 CPC applications for waiving of the 6 months period are being allowed nowadays. So in case the application is rejected, then parties can go for the second motion only after 6 months. Then there is no scope that the period of 6 months will be waived off. Then the parties will have to wait for 6 months from the date of order of the first motion. But in case that the application is allowed, then after obtaining all your original papers from the court, you can file for the second motion as soon as possible. It can be under 1 month also, 2 months also, or 3 months also, after your application is allowed. So after the application, so after the application of 151 of CPC has been filed, there comes a process of filing of the second motion. Now, once your application is filed, obviously you'll go for the second motion. A second motion is filed in a similar way as of the first motion was filed. Again, the joint statements will be recorded similarly as we have done in the first motion. The joint statements will be recorded by the court, but this time it will be a final statement. After recording the final joint statements, court will pass the order and pronounce in the open court that both the parties are now separated and the marriage is dissolved. The divorce decree will be passed and the same can be collected from the court staff within a week or so. In the entire process of mutual divorce, it is important to note that the crucial part in mutual divorce is recording of statements only, because the essence of mutual divorce is completed when both the parties agree on the point that they want to end their marriage. and pronounce the same in the open court. So this is the entire process of mutual divorce. If there are any questions regarding mutual divorce, if you want to ask any questions, you can ask right now. Okay, so I
Kanika,
cannot.
questions will take up in the end. Our webinars process is that we take the questions at the last of the after your
All
webinar.
right, all right, all right. So we'll take up the questions in the last. So I'll start with the next topic. We have done with the mutual divorce. We have done with the process of mutual divorce. Now I'll start with the next topic, which is contested divorce. So this is the contested divorce, but before that, I would like to tell you the difference between mutual divorce and contested divorce. As you can see on your screens, that mutual divorce is when both the parties want to end their marriage, and contested divorce is when only one party agree for divorce and other party deny to end the marriage. Then only the rule of contested divorce comes in. Otherwise, parties can also go for mutual divorce. So the second difference is that the process of mutual divorce will take maximum of 1 year. 1 year is maximum in mutual divorce. It can be minimum, can be 2 months also, 3 months also, but maximum will be 1 year. But the process of contested divorce is very time consuming. As for my experience, I can tell you from the starting to the end, if we'll wait till the judgment in the family court, it may take around 3 to 4 years also. So it is a very time consuming process. And after the judgment of family court, obviously the party who will lose will go to the revision, and then he'll go to the appeal. So there is a chance that a party who wants to drag these cases can drag to 7, 8 years also. So the process is very time consuming. The other difference between mutual divorce and contested divorce is that there are two motions in mutual divorce, but there is no such a thing like motions in contested divorce. A proper case is filed, and this is the only step how contested divorce can be filed. There are no motions. The next difference is that there is a joint statement in mutual divorce by both the parties in front of the judge. But this process is not there in contested divorce. There is no need of joint statement. Both the parties will abide by the judgment which is given by the honorable court. Uh, the last difference that I would like to mention here is that in mutual divorce there are no quarrels, there are no fights, or there are no unnecessary allegations. It is a stereotype format which the parties have to come into, but it is not the case in contested divorce. One cannot seek divorce without making a ground allegation. So this is the difference between mutual divorce and contested divorce. Now we'll start with the next topic, which is contested divorce. So contested divorce is filed when one of the party, either husband or wife, denies to give divorce to the other party. When one of the person is ready for divorce and other is not, then comes the role of contested divorce. Then the remedy with the person who wish to seek divorce from the spouse can file contested divorce in the court. As you guys can see on your screen that contested divorce can be filed under section 13 of Hindu Marriage Act. It can only be filed if both the parties are Hindu. Otherwise, the specific personal laws will apply to the parties. So now what is contested divorce? One of the party, the husband or wife, wishes to end the marriage, but the other party is denied for the same. Then comes the part of contested divorce, as I have already told you guys. Contested divorce in India reflects a situation wherein one spouse has finally made up his or her mind to proceed with the divorce, and other party do not wish to give the consent for ending the marriage ties. So it is important to know that contested divorce can only be filed under 7 grounds, and those grounds are mentioned under section 13 of the Marriage Act. So the first ground, as we see, is adultery. So adultery is a voluntary sexual intercourse between a married person and some other person who is not their spouse. So this is what adultery is. Number second is desertion. Desertion means complete physical withdrawal from the other spouse for a continuous minimum period of 2 years. Third point is cruelty. Cruelty means any willful or unacceptable conduct or unacceptable behavior by either of the spouse on the other, which can cause danger to the mental or physical health of the other spouse. So this was cruelty. The next one is unsound mind. If the spouse is unsound mind, then can contested. This if the spouse um, has converted the religion. For example, if Hindu spouse has become Muslim and has converted his religion or her religion, they can go for the contested divorce. Next is a spouse having renounced the world or being missing for a period of 7 years. The next one is any sexual disease, any sexually transmitted disease. And the last one is skin disease. Skin disease, if it is a transferable disease and infects the skin, mucous membranes, and nerves, which cause decoloration and lumps on the skin, and in certain cases, disfigurement and other deformities. So these are the grounds on which one of the spouse can go for contested divorce, and apart from these grounds, one cannot go for contested divorce. It is mandatory to mention one of the grounds. One of the grounds can be one or more, but it is mandatory to mention one of the grounds to go for the contested divorce. But as per my experience, that what we have witnessed these days is that 90% of divorce cases are on the ground of cruelty, desertion, and adultery. So I have planned in the session to discuss these three grounds in a bit detail to have a better understanding of the concept. So the first ground I will be discussing about is cruelty. Cruelty is in fact, as we know that the definition of cruelty has not been defined anywhere. But there are several judgments that from time to time have explained us the meaning of cruelty, and in the conclusion, it is established that cruelty does not only mean physical violence. It is a term which is much broader. If anyone, either husband or wife, is suffering from mental torture, harassment, bad behavior, abusive behavior, humiliation, verbal abuse, blackmailing, threatening to commit suicide, then also it is a part of cruelty, and it will be considered that they are suffering from cruelty, and they can file a divorce case on the basis of cruelty under all these tabs also. But one point I would like to tell you is that making allegation and proving the same are different things, and they have huge difference. Any anyone can make allegations like that, but in order to prove them, we require some substance or some evidence. In evidence, even photos, audios, videos, recording, and WhatsApp chats are also considered as an evidence in matrimonial cases. So it is always advisable to act little smart and have some recordings or photos or videos or some documents as a proof with yourself, so that you can prove the allegations before the court. As a result, you will win the case, but else your case will be weak on the technical grounds. Because what happens in the court is that we make the allegations, we say that this is the cruelty, we mention each and every point in our petition, but when it comes on proving the same, we fail to prove, and this is the only reason why divorce petitions, or say other even domestic violence petitions or dowry petitions like these are being dismissed only because of the lack of the proof. Uh, so the second ground that I'll be discussing about is adultery. Adultery implies that other spouse has indulged in a relationship outside marriage, indulging in sexual intercourse. At uh, at time what happens is that proving sexual intercourse is not that easy. As such, it is always recommended that petition for divorce on the ground of adultery should always have cruelty as another ground, because most of the time it becomes impossible to prove adultery, because merely if the spouse, if you prove or if you show that merely if the spouse is sitting with someone or going for a movie with someone or sitting in a cafe, does not prove adultery. In adultery, it is important that you show a sexual intercourse, that you prove a physical relationship. And if you have filed a case merely on the basis of adultery or on the ground of adultery, there are less chances that you'll be able to make your case strong. But this is the only reason why we always advise to go for adultery and cruelty. So, in case you are not able to prove your ground under adultery, you will always be able to prove your ground under the cruelty in the form of maybe emotional torture or mental torture. So you will be able to prove your case under cruelty, if not adultery. Another point I would like to mention in here is that even a single act of adultery is sufficient to prove adultery and sufficient to file a divorce case. Even a single act, one do not have to prove that the other party or the other person is living under an adulterous life. It is not that important. Even if you can prove the one incidence of adultery, or if you have an allegation of one incidence of adultery, that is sufficient for filing the contested divorce. And one another point I would like to mention here is that in case the wife has committed adultery and husband is able to prove the same before the honorable court, that then it will adversely affect the maintenance, the quantum of maintenance, I should say, also for the wife. There is a possibility that the husband will have to pay um, less in comparison, and there are also judgments where it is said that the wife is not entitled to maintenance if the adultery has been proved against her. So there is also a possible way that she will be entitled for no maintenance. So this was the entire brief of adultery. Now we'll come up on the third common ground that we usually take in divorce, is desertion. So when any of the spouse deserts the other one, means they haven't met or talked or have not made any physical relationship with each other since minimum 2 years, then desertion can also be one of the ground for divorce. But again, desertion is always taken up with either cruelty or adultery, because to prove desertion alone is not possible. So therefore, you will make your case weak on the technical grounds if you will make only one ground, desertion, as a ground in your contested divorce. So these were the three main grounds for divorce that are very common, and we have discussed about the same. Now the next topic I'll take is process of filing of contested divorce, which is very much different from the process of filing the mutual divorce. So the first step is that a party who is seeking divorce will have to draft a petition under section 13(1) of the Hindu Marriage Act, with the help of a lawyer, obviously. In this petition, you will have to mention all the incidences that you have gone through since the day of marriage. And most importantly, you will have to mention the ground on which you are claiming the divorce. Without mentioning the ground, your petition will be dismissed on the technical grounds. So the incident that you will have to mention should be with date or month or year, because your petition can be dismissed in case you have not mentioned when exactly these incidents of cruelty or whatever ground you have taken place. Or it can actually make your case weak when it comes on the evidence stage, when the cross examination takes place. Then the other lawyer will obviously ask that when this particular incident had taken place, you will, on that particular time, you will say on this date, on this month or this year. But then again, the question will come up that where have you mentioned in your petition about the date and the timing. So it is important to mention the date, month or the year in the petition. Now the second point, after the filing of after the drafting of the petition, is that submitting your petition and documents before the court, you will, after submitting the petition, you will get a date of hearing, which is usually within a week only. On that code of hearing, on that particular date, you will have to be present before the honorable court with your counsel. Your counsel will explain the entire case to the court, and then after hearing, the court will issue summons to the other party. Means court will call up the other party in the court to give their defense. The third step is that uh, there is a possibility that the court asks for mediation of both the parties. When after issuance of the summons, when the other party shows up and other parties comes in appearance in the court, there is a possibility that the judge may ask for the mediation session. This is basically a little attempt by the court so that marriage is saved and not destroyed, because the court also believes in saving the marriages and not destroying the marriages. So this is the only reason that we say in India the filing of divorce is very simple, but obtaining or getting the divorce is very difficult, because both the spouses have to go through various proceedings and various stages in divorce proceedings. So this is the third stage that I'm talking about, is the mediation session. In mediation process, both the parties are made aware of the consequences of the divorce, and the mediator also makes an effort for the settlement. So we'll be discussing about this in detail, because I have made a specific topic only on this particular mediation thing. So this we'll discuss in the next topic. The fourth point is, and the very important point is, that actually nobody will tell you this point that I'm telling you right now, is that whether a wife files for the divorce or the husband file for the divorce, husband will have to pay rupees 7,000 to 11,000 depending upon the financial status of the husband. The same amount has to be given to the wife as litigation expenses, so that she can fight her case fairly without any financial hardships. And husband can also face judicial custody if he did not comply with the orders of the court. So yes, this is a very harsh part, but since it is a reality, so it is important to make you people aware. This particular amount, which will be between 7,000 to 11,000, has to be submitted by the husband in the very initial stage only, before any further proceedings of divorce is initiated. This particular amount is in form of DD, demand draft, which has to be submitted in the court itself. And one important point that I would like to mention is that without paying this particular amount to the wife, the divorce proceedings will not initiate further. The proceeding will remain stopped there only. So it is important that husband will have to pay the litigation expenses to wife. Then the fifth stage comes, which we call as the evidence stage, where number one, all the evidences against each other are placed on record. As I said earlier also, that even WhatsApp chats, audio recordings and video recordings are considered as evidence. Spouse can place them on record, even if there is any other document which can be proved as an evidence, can be placed on record in this particular stage. And the second point under this evidence stage is that cross-examination. Cross-examination will happen of both the parties, and the cross-examination will happen for the witness also. So this happens in evidence stage only. Then the sixth stage comes of the final argument. It is after the evidence stage, we come up with the final arguments. In the final arguments, both the counsels may orally argue, and they may orally argue also, or the written arguments can also be submitted in the court. And all the judgments in their support can also be placed on record in the stage of final arguments. And then the last stage, which we called as judgment, is passed. The court will hear both the parties, and after that the judgment is passed by the court. So this is how the divorce proceedings in India is initiated. So the next topic that I'll take up, that I have told you in between also, but as I said that I will be taking up it as a separate topic, because I said that that the court believes in making of the marriage and not destroying the marriages. So the process of mediation and counseling comes in. So as we can see on the screen, the mediation session can be considered as counseling process also. of both the parties before the case is further proceeded. Once other party comes before the honorable court, there is a session of mediation before any other proceedings, as I've already told. Thus, we say it is not easy to get divorce in India. So this is one of the stage also in divorce proceedings. This mediation session is for 90 days, but it can be expanded also on the wish of the parties. It can also be less than 90 days in case where the parties have made up their mind that they want to drop the counseling process and they want their case to be proceeded in the court itself. So it can be more than 90 days also, it can be less than 90 days also, but merely on the wish of both the parties. So the mediator gives the dates of mediation on weekly basis. The mediator is basically appointed by the court only. So this process, which we call as counseling process, is free of cost. And counseling process to dispute between husband and wife so that they can reconcile and they can withdraw the divorce case. They all the mediators explain the consequences and effect of divorce on both the parties. They listen to both the parties along with the family members because in the mediation sessions, the family members, the friends, the relatives, and the lawyers are also allowed. So, if the parties wish to be with their family, relatives, or lawyers, it is very much possible. The best and important part about this mediation session is that it is totally confidential. Whatever you say or whatever you do in that particular four walls, under the four walls, whatever you do, whatever statement you make will not be recorded anywhere. It is totally confidential. The judge will only come to know that whether mediation process has failed or success. So this process will not affect the divorce proceedings in any manner. It is a purely genuine way to settle your disputes and to reconcile. If the parties wish to reconcile or settle their dispute at this particular stage of mediation, the mediation is said to be successful and the party can go to the court and withdraw their case and do a settlement. And if the mediation process is failed, then the particular file, your file will again go to the court in the front of the judge, and your divorce proceedings will continue from that particular stage only. So this was the process of mediation or counseling session under contested divorce. This session is not under mutual divorce. It is only under contested divorce. So the next topic I'll be taking up is that documents required for divorce proceedings. So the first document is your Aadhaar card. The second document is for the wedding proof, even wedding photograph, your RS Samaj Mandir, because there are couples who go get married in RS Samaj Mandir also. So even RS Samaj Mandir certificate is considered as a valid wedding proof. And the marriage registration certificate, any one of all these documents are required, not all, any one of these documents. The third document that we require is address proof. Address proof can be proved in the form of voter ID, Aadhaar card, or if you are living on a rented premises, it is mandatory to give your rent agreement. In case you want to make your jurisdiction that particular place only where you are residing on rent basis, then only rent agreement will be mandatory. Otherwise, you can give a voter ID or Aadhaar card also. After that, your passport size photograph is required. And then there are certain affidavits saying that you have read over all the petition, entire draft, and you have only told all these content to your counsel, and then only the counsel has drafted this entire petition. So that you have to give it in written, which is the affidavit, and you have to get it notarized. And the last is wakalatnama. So all these are the documents which are required for the divorce proceedings. The documents are same in mutual divorce also and the contested divorce also. These are the only documents which are required in both mutual and divorce case. So coming up to the next point, I have made a special tab under this particular session as to make the women aware about what all rights they have under the divorce proceedings. So I'll be discussing about rights of a woman under divorce proceedings. As you can see on the slide, that the first right is the right to claim maintenance. Maintenance can be interim maintenance, that is monthly maintenance from husband in order to survive. Interim can be claimed by filing an application under Section 24 of Hindu Marriage Act. Interim is granted by the court in order to ensure that a woman at least having the basic resources, the basic necessities in life during the cases are going on. Um, the court basically ensures and financially protects the woman in form of giving interim maintenance. This is the very essence of the interim maintenance only, that the woman who has come to the court should be financially protected and should be given basic necessities, at least basic necessities for her survival. So this was interim maintenance. Next is ad interim maintenance. There is a difference in ad interim maintenance and interim maintenance. Um, in ad interim maintenance, it is only one-time maintenance. There is a possibility that the court may order for an ad interim apart from the interim maintenance also. Ad interim is a token money, or we can say a one-time token money granted by the court to the woman in case where the court feels that the woman is financially so broken and the condition of woman is financially not stable at all, and she won't be able to survive after this point of time. If the court observes that, the court will order ad interim money also, and it is only one time, as interim maintenance is on monthly basis. It is given to the women on monthly basis, but ad interim is only one time. And then the last type of maintenance is alimony. Alimony can be claimed by the woman by filing a separate case under section 125 of CRPC also, but she can claim the same in the process of divorce also. Alimony is again the one-time settlement amount that can be claimed by the wife from the husband. So this was one of the first right to claim maintenance. The second right we'll talk about is right to Stridhan. Stridhan is actually considered as the right of the wife and belongs to wife only. It is considered that the Stridhan is meant to belong to the wife only. So she can claim all her expensive jewelries, all her expensive articles in the divorce proceeding itself. Court will ask for the list of the Sridhan and will order the husband to give her belongings back to her. There is no need to file a separate application for claiming it. Only oral statement and a list of Sridhan, whatever Sridhan you want to claim, you just have to write it down, and a list has to be given before the honorable court. This is more than sufficient. There is no need of filing a separate applications or anything like that. So this was right to Sridhan. Then we'll come up on the right of litigation expenses. As I've already mentioned before also, that husband has to pay 7 to 8 or 11,000 depending upon his financial status as litigation expenses to the wife. No matter the case is filed by husband or wife, it is the husband who will have to pay the litigation fees, and it is harsh, but it is a law, so you have to comply by that. You don't have any other option. And it has been made mandatory in almost all the courts now, though it has been made one of the direction, but it is has been mandatory in almost all the courts, especially in Delhi. It has been mandatory. So the next right we'll talk about is right for residence. Um, right for residence comes into the picture when the husband cannot, when because it is said that the husband cannot leave the wife and children abandoned to die. It is the right of the wife to have residence to live. Though the residence rights can be claimed in the other petition like domestic violence also, uh, but it can also be claimed in divorce proceedings also. No court will deny to hear the same because there is also, I guess, one of the judgment where the Supreme Court has said that no family court or no court made for the women, for example, Mahila court shall deny to her the submission of the wife. So no court will deny to her the same. You can also claim your residential right in divorce proceedings. The court will ensure that the wife gets either a rented accommodation on the expenses of the husband, obviously, or the husband will have to pay the rent directly to the wife. So the court ensures that. The next right is right to claim dowry given at the time of marriage. So whatever dowry, whatever gifts, maybe in the form of furniture, maybe in the form of electronic machines or electronic products, whatever it is given at the time of the marriage from the side of the wife, from the father of the wife can claim all those things back. She can claim all those expensive furniture, all those electronic machines and products back. So whatever, apart from that, also if there are any other things which has been given as dowry, she has the right to claim it back. And the last right is to claim the amount that was spent on the time of marriage. So she also has the right to claim the entire amount which has been spent by the father of the woman. She can claim that particular amount back from the husband, and apart from that, she can also claim the compensation against the husband, against the torture, against the humiliation, and against the bad behavior she has been suffering from. She can also claim the compensation. So this was the rights of women that she can claim in divorce proceedings also, while the divorce proceedings are going on. So this was the entire topic. Now we'll step up to the third form of separation, which is annulment of marriage. So as you can see on your screen, as per the legal terminology, the term annulment refers making a marriage fully null and void. It means that the marriage had never taken place. This is the main difference between between contested divorce and annulment of marriage. That in divorce, spouses end their marriage, but in annulment, the spouses claim that the marriage never took place or the marriage has never been completed or the essence of marriage has never been completed. Another major difference between annulment of marriage and contested divorce is that after the contested divorce, both the parties will be called as divorcees. But in annulment, when you obtain annulment decree, both the parties, the status of both the parties will remain as single only. They will be called as single only. In their passport, they will be able to mention single, but if after the contested divorce, both the parties mention divorcee. But it is not the case in annulment of marriage. They remain single in annulment of marriage. So annulment is a legal process for declaration of marriage null and void. It can only be stated null and void if there are certain legal requirements which are not met at the time of marriage or have considered not to be existed legally. So as per Section 11 of Hindu Marriage Act 1955, it deals with such marriages described as the marriage solemnized shall be null and void by presenting an annulment petition through any of the party on the basis of the grounds. And the grounds are very much similar. The grounds are very much similar from the grounds of divorce. Uh, so the first ground is that any of the spouse was already married to someone at the time of the marriage. So already married. If the spouse was already married before, so they can claim for annulment of marriage. The second one is that any of the spouse was young to get married, or marry, or she marries, or he marries without the consent at the time of the marriage. And the third is any of the spouse who was under the influence of drugs or alcohol at the time of the marriage. The fourth is any of the spouse who is mentally incompetent. A fifth one is if the consent was obtained through fraud or force. The sixth one is any of the spouse was physically incompetent to get married. Physically incompetent means basically he is unable to have sexual intercourse. In that case, annulment can be filed. There is no need to go for the divorce. If this is the one of the reason, you can go for annulment also. The seventh one is the spouse is sentenced for a life imprisonment and for the life imprisonment. In this particular case also, though, there is no need to go and ask for the divorce, for the contested divorce. The parties can file for the annulment of marriage also. So in annulment of marriage, again, there are two ways of filing annulment of marriage. Annulment of marriage can be filed mutually also and contested also. If both the parties agree to annulment of marriage, then they get their marriage annulled on the mutual basis. But if, again, in the case if one of the party wishes for the annulment and other denies for the same, then comes the role of contested proceedings of annulment. But in both the cases, petition will be filed. The petition which is filed will remain common, unlike in the mutual divorce and contested divorce. Rather, it is a mutual annulment or it is a contested annulment. The petition of annulment will remain the same. The documents required for the filing of annulment are same as we have discussed before in the case of mutual divorce and in the case of contested divorce. The documents are same and the procedure is also the same. The stages which takes are also the same in annulment of marriage. So this was the entire process, which is the formal what the topic we're discussing about is judicial separation. Judicial separation is a legal process where husband and wife is formally separated despite being illegally married. I'm really sorry, my internet connection is being a little unstable. So yeah. So the last point we're talking about will be judicial separation. It is a legal process where husband and wife is formally separated despite being legally married. There are also couples who want to live separately, but they do not wish to get divorced for whatsoever reasons. So this process is also can be adopted by those couples. Important point to note in here is that in judicial custody, in judicial separation, the status of husband and wife will remain married. Their marriage will not come to an end. The marriage, thus, we say that the marriage will be in very much existence. Uh, or we can say that their marriage will not be dissolved. It will be very much into the existence. Also, judicial separation is for the couples who wish to try resolving their disputes first before seeking the divorce, or the couple who wish to know whether they can live separately or not. Even for those couples, who need some space to rethink about whether they can live in a marital tie or they should go for the divorce proceedings. If they fail to overcome the differences, if the couple fail to overcome the differences in judicial separation, they can apply for the divorce after 1 year. Also, those couples, so this is judicial separation. Even if the couple comes out in the judicial separation and they decides that they have to go for the divorce proceeding, they can easily go for the divorce proceedings, be it mutual divorce or contested divorce. So this is a basic concept of judicial separation under our laws. And the grounds for judicial separation are almost same as grounds for contested divorce, which is adultery, cruelty, desertion, force to convert religion, incurable disease, insanity or abnormality, sexual disease, rape, harassment, or molestation can also be one of the grounds for going for the judicial separation, renunciation of world, and the child marriage. In case of child marriage also, one can go for the judicial separation. So these were the entire forms and these were the entire procedures of filing a divorce in India. So who can choose judicial separation? I've made a special slide so that you can understand the concept in a better way. Couples who are not sure whether they can live together or uh, cannot choose this, whether they can live together or not, can choose this particular channel of judicial separation. Uh, This particular channel gives immense time to parties to rethink for divorce proceedings, and it gives time to explore the chances of reconciliation. It also gives times, for example, if they have to go for the mutual divorce, it also gives times to discuss about the terms and conditions and to come up on a particular agreement. Parties can opt for this divorce anytime after parties can opt for divorce also anytime after the judicial separation, or they can live separately keeping their marriage in existence. It is not mandatory that after the judicial separation they have to go for divorce only, or they have to go under a certain process only. They can choose to keep, they can choose to live individually and keeping their marriage alive. So also the couples who are looking forward for joint custody of kids and who are looking for joint parenting can also choose this option. So thank you for being such an amazing attendees, guys. I tried to cover as many points as I can in a very short span. Also, I hope this session was knowledgeable. Please give me feedback. Thank you, and stay home and stay safe. And now we can come up with the questions if there are any.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an enlightening session. Our viewers today have utilized this opportunity to gain from your experience and knowledge. They also have some queries which I will now put forward.
भाई मेरा ना webinar खत्म हो रहा है, मैं बोल देखता हूँ.
First one is by Mr. Pranit. He is asking that what if in a case when husband wants to contest a case where wife is suffering from a disease other than skin disease before marriage and husband came to know about such disease after marriage?
This particular disease should be incurable. If that particular disease is incurable, as I've already mentioned, I would like to show you the grounds again. Even it is a sexual disease or any skin disease or any other disease which is incurable, for example, AIDS or any other such disease, then that particular ground can also be made as a ground for divorce and contested divorce.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for the answer. Next question is also by Mr. Pranit. He is asking that where wife was in several affairs before marriage, will it be taken as a ground of cruelty by husband to contest divorce?
See, if the wife has affairs previously before the marriage and she's continuing to having affair after the marriage also, then it comes under the cruelty. But if she has ended all her ties with all her affairs in the past and now she's living with that person only, then it cannot be treated as cruelty.
Okay, ma'am. I believe that answers the question precisely. So the next question
Priyanka, we
is
cannot
from...
see you. Priyanka, can I have request you to open your video, please? We cannot see.
So it's disabled by you.
Disabled by me? Okay,
Yes,
wait.
sir.
Ask to start the video.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So the next question is by Shishadri Kumari, ma'am. She is asking, can you please explain desertion?
Desertion basically means when husband and wife are living separately and they are not talking to each other, they are not in physical relationship since minimum of 2 years, then we can say the wife or the husband tends to desert the other person, one spouse. When we say that one spouse is deserting the other spouse, it means that the one spouse is mentally torturing him. They are not talking to each other since a minimum period of 2 years, and they are not in a physical contact, in a physical relationship.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you for the answer. The next question is by Mr. Piyush Bhardwaj. He's asking the difference between judicial separation and divorce.
All right. So as okay, so judicial separation does not dissolve your marriage. If you go to the court for judicial separation, your marriage will be very much into existence. You can only live separately. The husband and wife can go and live separately in maybe other accommodation. The husband can live in other accommodation, and the wife can live in other accommodation according to their wishes. But their marriage will be in existence. They do not dissolve their marriage. But in divorce, a decree of divorce is being given. Marriage is said to be dissolved. The husband and wife are no longer tied by the relationship of marriage when you get divorced. So this is one of the basic difference in judicial divorce and contested divorce.
Ma'am, I would like to ask here, is it the cooling period we are referring? Is judicial separation the cooling period before divorce? Can we say
Yes,
that?
yes, it is one, we can say it is also a part of that cooling period also. But apart from that, it can be asked by the parties separately also.
Okay. Ma'am, the next question is by Mr. Piyush Bhardwaj again. He's asking that motion in case of mutual divorce. What does it mean, motion?
Motion is actually a legal term which has been given by the laws. We say first motion and second motion. These are the legal terminologies. These are not. I am not saying motion out of my own knowledge or out of my own thing. These motion words have are the legal terminologies basically.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, Priyanka.
She's asking that can domestic violence complaint be taken as a ground for divorce by husband?
Domestic violence, basically, since I've already said that cruelty word is very broader nowadays.
Broad.
So, and under the law, there is no ground of domestic violence. But in order to drag that domestic violence, we can fit domestic violence word somewhere in the cruelty. We can say that uh, domestic violence is what? Domestic violence is again one of the form of cruelty only, if we say.
Hmm.
So we
Yes, ma'am.
can use that particular ground in the ground of cruelty.
Okay. I think here domestic violence is not a gender neutral act. So I think for husband per se we can't say domestic violence. I think we can take it emotional abuse or physical violence. कुछ ऐसे we can include in cruelty. I think. Am I right?
See, yes, you are very much right. But in order to add a few more lines to it, if we see that a person has filed domestic violence in the court, if a woman has filed domestic violence in a court, she says that the husband is committing cruel. In other words, we can say that the husband is committing cruelty upon her, and vice versa. If the husband is saying that the woman has committed domestic violence, that he cannot go for domestic violence case, but he can make one of the ground of domestic violence under the cruelty for asking divorce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, the next question is by Archit Kaushik, sir. He's asking what is the relief sought in domestic violence case?
See, there are several reliefs that can be sought in domestic violence case. A domestic violence case, since it's a topic which is not uh, related to this particular session, but still I would like to answer the same. There are various reliefs that a woman can claim under domestic violence, uh, be it financial relief, be it a relief of residence, her protection orders, the compensation, the maintenance, her stridhan, all these things can be claimed in domestic violence proceedings.
Ma'am, here a question by me again. Is domestic violence heard by the family court like along with divorce? Can it be
No, no. Domestic violence case is
separate?
not heard. Yeah. It is a separate case. It is not heard by the family court. Special court, called as Mahila court, are being established in the court premises itself. And a particular case of domestic violence case is proceeded in Mahila court only.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. The next is also by Alpana Yadav, ma'am. She's asking, I mean to ask, if the wife is suffering through domestic violence, then can it be taken as a ground for divorce?
It is one of the same question I think that I've
Hmm.
answered previously,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
domestic violence can be taken in the ground of cruelty, and it can be said that the cruelty has been committed upon her, and she can make a ground of cruelty as domestic violence
Yes, ma'am.
in the divorce proceeding.
Ma'am, next is by
Kanika, I had a question. Priyanka, just pause. I had a
Yes.
question with me. This is with regarding to common knowledge which generally people do ask for it. What is this? In the mutual divorce cases, what is this period of 18 months is now there by the Supreme Court judgment and the judgment of High Court that we can file the second motion before the 6 months of the cooling period. Can you bit throw a light on that?
Yeah, the 18 months period now has been, see, if the parties are living separate, and they can show that they are living separately for the period of 18 months, they can actually cool off the period of 6 months very easily. But if the parties cannot show that if the parties are not living separately for the period of 18 months, then the parties will have to go through the cooling period. They have to wait for the 6 months before filing of the second motion. So this is the entire essence of the process. So this is where the 18 months process came into.
So Kanika, for that, do we need to give any evidence that they are living separately for the 18 months or a date?
We only need a date because there is no evidence. It is a mutual process. There is no process of evidence. The court will not ask for the evidence at all. So there is only a date of separation that we need to mention in the petition, both in first motion, both in second motion also, and then at the time of agreement also. If you are making an agreement and you're reducing all the terms and conditions and reducing it into the writing, if you're making an agreement, that date of separation has to be mentioned. There is no need for the evidence, only a date of separation would work.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for that answer. The next question is by Mr. Archit Kaushik. He is asking the difference between the relief sought between a domestic violence case and a case under 125 CRPC.
All right. So, see, 125 CRPC is very specific. It is maintenance, and maintenance can be claimed in all the courts, but it will be given in one court only. If in one particular court the judge has granted the maintenance, then you cannot ask for the that particular relief from any other court. So in domestic violence case, if you're asking for, you can ask for either interim maintenance, ad interim, or alimony, and there is a separate case of 125 CRPC. So the relief sought under 125 CRPC is, your question is very specific and clear in itself that relief sought under 125 CRPC will be of maintenance, and you can claim that in domestic violence also, but it will be awarded only at one place.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is by Alpna Yadav, ma'am. She's asking that what if a wife doesn't want to give divorce but wants to avail her legal remedies under domestic violence?
So,
Against domestic violence, sorry. Remedies against domestic violence.
can you please repeat this question? I just got little.
What if a wife doesn't want to give divorce but wants to avail her legal remedies against domestic violence?
So she can go and file domestic violence case. There is no need to file divorce case because
Divorce.
divorce case and domestic violence case are two separate cases. So there are cases where one of the spouse, one a woman goes and file domestic violence case and do not wishes for the divorce. So if you want to avail your rights in domestic violence, to go file domestic violence case. Don't agree for the divorce. Even if your husband files divorce case, don't agree on that. Just focus on your domestic violence case.
Thank
Priyanka,
you.
just take up the last question. I think the speaker is also exceeding the time since she has to also go. She has given a important time from her busy schedule to us. There is one important question which I have saw it's lying, Priyanka. That is with regard to that there is whether it is mandatory to give a alimony if the mutual divorce is sought between the parties, whether it be Muslim, Christian, or Special Marriage Act or Hindu.
All right. So it is not mandatory. When it comes to Hindu Marriage Act, it is not mandatory to give maintenance in mutual divorce. Uh, it is no law that which mandates that there should be a specific amount of alimony or maintenance in mutual divorce, because the essence of mutual divorce itself is when both husband and wife agrees on a certain point. If one of the party agree that if one of the parties is asking for the maintenance, a woman is asking for the maintenance, the husband is denying for the maintenance, then at that particular case, mutual divorce cannot be filed only. So you have to agree, both the parties have to agree whether there is an alimony. Yes, if there is an alimony, how much will be the alimony? It should be agreed by both the parties. And whether there is no alimony, it should be agreed by both the parties. So it is not mandatory under mutual divorce. But when it comes to contested divorce or when it comes to contested divorce, uh, uh, the court nowadays generally grant maintenance to wife, and wife is entitled to maintenance, and it is the law. So not in mutual divorce, but in contested divorce, the wife tends to get, and the wife is entitled for the maintenance.
Oh, before we do the ending note, Shobhit has sent me a personal message that his questions has not been taken up. Shobhit, I request you to take up the question with Kanika ma'am. Shobhit.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, I have 4 questions. Can I ask Nitesh sir all the 4 questions?
No, not all the 4. You have to make one of all those 4.
Okay, ma'am, can I ask you one question, ma'am? Then?
Yes,
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Sir, if after the marriage, ma'am, if one party start doing the mental stress, as you mentioned, or some harassment to the other party, and he tries to prove that he or she is unsound of mind, and if one starts the recording of the phone calls of the other party, ma'am, will it amount to breach of privacy of the other party?
No, until it is a recording of the particular incidents, it will not be considered as the breach of privacy or something like that, because in husband, they are husband and wife. There is no privacy. If they are recording a particular incident, then it will not be called as a breach of privacy. But this particular ground can come in when husband or wife tries to, um, opt illegal ways to bring on
Exactly,
record,
ma'am. That is
bring
exactly,
on
ma'am. Sorry
record
to
for,
interrupt.
yeah. So if one of the spouse tries illegal ways to bring documents on record, for example the ITRs or the bank statements, then this particular ground can come in. But again, it will be proved or not, depends on the situation. But the ground can come in, but not in the case where you are recording a particular incident or you are clicking photographs of a particular incident. Not in that case.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Most welcome.
So I now request, Komal. Komal, can you hear us? Just open your video. Komal.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so for the thanking note, I request Komal to proceed ahead.
Okay. Thank you for such an incredible webinar, Ms. Kanika Bhardwaj, ma'am. It was truly an informative and accoladed session. And during these hard times, we can learn via digital platform. Teaching about this topic was an eye-opener and of a great knowledge to us as well as our viewers. Learning new perspective about divorce procedure in India is equally important and informative. Thank you once again for an excellent webinar session. Over to you, Nitesh, sir.
Thank you, Akansha. Thank you, Komal, for the very wonderful note which you have given. And
Welcome, sir.
this, I am just giving the ending note to Ms. Kanika Bhardwaj. It was very informative session with a PPT presentation. And I know in the matrimonial matters, once you start with the queries, they never end. And that same happens when the client come to the office and sits around. They don't want to get up until and unless it's the entire day which end with exhausted. So you have tried to give all the answers very technically to the point and as per the norms which has been set out by the law. And most importantly, the PPT presentation was very wonderful. Kanika, we once again thank you and looking forward to come ahead with another informative, subjective webinar with you. And I also thank Priyanka Sethi, Komal and Nisha Garg to have with me in this present webinar. Thank you, all of you. See you soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nitesh.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.